We are now up to 9 cities where fast food workers who typically earn $7 to $9 an hour are saying no, thank you. Well, actually, they're saying yes, I'll keep the job, but for a day, I'm going to go out and strike. I'm going to step off the job here. They're calling for a $15 hourly wage. This is for pretty tough work. Working with hot grease, working with cranky people, standing on your feet, having to eat this stuff because it's there. Oh, I'm going for lunch. Where are you going? I think I'll go someplace else. No, you can't do that. So anyhow, today at 3 o'clock, when this show first went on the air, Manhattan in New York City, in Union Square, they were meeting. And then there were also walkouts on Monday in Kansas City and St. Louis. And over the next few days, according to the activists who are putting this thing together, and there's a wide variety of them, we will see the same thing happening in Chicago, Detroit, Milwaukee, Flint, and Seattle's already done it. They're expected to repeat it, and Washington, D.C. has had 3 separate strikes so far this year. This is pretty impressive. I mean, when you've got the President of the United States calling for a $9 an hour minimum wage, federal minimum wage right now is $7.25. It would be $10.20 an hour if it was simply where it was in 1968, when the economy was doing very well. Thank you very much. But the president is saying, "Hey, how about just 9?" And Republicans are saying, how about 0? No, I'm serious. I'm not making that up. I'm serious. There's a whole substantial contingent in the Republican Party who are saying, oh, yeah, the minimum wage, that should be at 0. We don't need no stinking minimum wage, these Republicans are saying. It's like, why should a company have to pay? Here's the rationale. If you have a minimum wage, then it's not possible. Let me rephrase this. There are some business activities which are so marginally profitable that they can really only afford to pay $2 or $3 an hour. Why should those businesses not be able to exist? Or there are some business owners who are so greedy that they only want to pay $2 or $3 an hour. And by the way, at the same time, there are people in some cities who are willing to work for $2 or $3 an hour. And in fact, the fact of the matter is there's people actually right now, right this minute, all across America who are working for $2 or $3 an hour. A lot of restaurants pay $2 an hour plus tips. A little bit over $2 an hour. But then you've got agricultural workers. You've got people working out in the fields, which is some of the hardest, most backbreaking work, where they're making $3 an hour or less. So this is, this is not just some kind of theoretical thing. This is actually going on. I mean, there's people being paid very, very little. And as a society, we've kind of said, okay, well, the people working in the fields and the maids and we'll pay them less. Which I have a problem with. People say, well, your food is going to cost more. It's not going to cost that much more. Remember when John McCain was talking about you shouldn't raise the minimum wage up to the minimum wage for agricultural workers in Arizona because nobody would come pick our lettuce, John McCain said. And, it turns out that, in fact, McCain said, I don't think anybody would do it for $50 an hour. Thousands of people sent him, I'll do it for $50 an hour. So it's not a question of, are you willing to pick lettuce? It's, are you willing to pick lettuce for $3 an hour? I don't think there's any shortage of people in this country who would pick lettuce for $10 an hour. And the basis for my saying that is the conversations that I had with Dennis Weaver when he was still alive. The guy who used to play in Gunsmoke, he was Chester in Gunsmoke, and played Sam McCloud, the TV series. And Dennis Weaver was a good guy. He was a friend. I wrote the foreword to his autobiography, which is called All the World's a Stage. And he invented this thing called economics, which was the merger of economics and ecology, which is a brilliant idea. And around the time he died, we were working on trying to figure out how to make it go farther. There were a couple of universities that were picking it up and teaching it. But anyhow, Dennis Weaver told me the story, and he tells it in his book, The Whole World's a Stage, his autobiography, with an introduction by Thom Hartmann. He tells this story of how when he was a kid, it was during the Great Depression, during the Dust Bowl days, and his father had left the family, and his mom took him and his sister and I think a brother, I think there were three of them, and put him in the station wagon and drove from the panhandle of Texas, as I recall, up to the central Washington state, and they picked strawberries. They were migrant farm workers, and they worked their way down the coast as the season expanded, being migrant farm workers, working for what in today's dollars would probably be, $5, $6 an hour. So anyhow, what the Republican argument is that by having a minimum wage, you're eliminating the ability to have these entry-level jobs, and you're cutting people out of the workforce, blah, 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 blah. And my response to that is, number one, there is no empirical evidence to support that. When the minimum wage was put into place in the 1930s, it did not increase unemployment. It reduced it. It was a stimulus to the economy because minimum wage workers spend 100% of the money they earn, as opposed to Mitt Romney-level workers who save most of what they earn. And when you spend 100% of what you earn, you are stimulating the economy. The job creators are the bottom 50% of Americans in terms of income. They're the real job creators. They're the ones creating demand. Arguably the bottom 80% of Americans. It's probably the bottom 80% are spending everything they get. And secondly, business is a privilege in this country. There's nothing in the Constitution or the Bill of Rights that says you have the right to own a business. If you want to own a business, if you want to conduct business, and you want certain tax advantages, and you want limitations of liability, and you want all the benefits that come with a corporation, with having a corporation, owning a corporation, using the corporate form, if you want that, then you have to conduct yourself by certain rules. There's accounting rules, there's taxation rules, and then there's rules like you got to pay the minimum wage. And I don't know why we can't, as a society, simply say, if you can't do business in this country and pay your workers at least $10 an hour, you have no right doing business. It's just that simple. For example. So, anyway, just some rambling thoughts from the day. Particularly for somebody doing, treacherous, dangerous, difficult, hot. These people, I flipped burgers at Henry's Hamburgers when I was a teenager. You get a lot of burns from that hot grease.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's tough work. It really is tough work. And all these people are asking for is a decent living wage.